Hey guys, it's Kelsey from roughandtumblefarmhouse.com, your best friend on the homestead. I'm popping out to do chores this morning and thought I would, it's a little chillier than I thought, that I'm bringing you along and just kind of give you a sort of state of the homestead. It is the second week of deer hunting right now, hence the orange, and I'm calling it the end of the season because we are supposed to be in the 50s today. And then look at these clowns, hold on. These creatures are hopefully going to the neighbors today. I'm so tired of these turkeys. I'll talk about them in a minute. What do you want? What do you want, punks? Hopefully the wind isn't too much here that you just can't hear me at all. But what was I talking about? I lost my train of thought because of these turkeys. What? I'm so sick of these turkeys. Oh yes, it's supposed to be in the 50s today, although it's kind of windy and chilly. I just have to kind of like keep kicking back or they're just total jerks. Sorry, this is the most disjointed YouTube video I've ever made. It's mostly the turkeys that are making the problem. Anyway, it's supposed to start like snowing and being actually wintry in a couple of days, so I figure it's a good time to sort of give the state of the homestead. Hey, give you the state of the homestead and kind of recap how the season went and talk to you about what my plans are for next year. Okay, so I realize there's every possibility that the wind is just gonna make this not a good. Well, hi Birdie. She's trotting up to say hello. That the wind might make this a terrible video if the turkeys and my distraction haven't already. I'm bringing some, hi baby. Bringing some grain out to June. You want a little nibble before your mom comes? She's like, what is that weird thing in your hand? And there's a rooster out there who's being very impolite to that hen. Anyway, so let's just start out here with the cows maybe. So that's update. June had a calf. Beautiful heifer named Birdie back there. She's doing really well. June is 8 going on 9, and so her condition is just less than I'd like it to be. She's got really, really good hay, and I've been supplementing her with grain, which you can see her condition is just kind of less than I'd like. So I'm actually not milking right now because I really want her condition to improve more, especially here. And she looks especially sunken in right now, but she also hasn't had anything to eat. She's just having her breakfast, but she's just looking bonier. I have been in consultation with a vet friend of mine who's now retired, but kind of talked to him through everything, and he said, yeah, you know, like she looks to me just like she's an older cow, like, and that's what you can start to expect. But it's a lot different for what she typically is. And she's not like malnourished or anything. But so then I consulted with another friend of mine she's a dairy herdsman. And so she recommended getting in like a high protein grain feed into her diet, kind of introducing it slowly and just having it there to help improve her condition. So that's what we are working on right now. So I'm not milking her. I don't know if she is bred back or not. And honestly, at this point, if she's not bred back, I don't know if I want to breed her back because I just want her to focus her nutrition. She still has her heifer calf here again, who's usually very friendly, but this stick has totally got her thrown off. She's like, what the hell is that thing? But anyway, so I just really want to focus on her being healthy and good because she's about to turn 9, but you know, on small scale, well, she'll turn 9 in June, but on small scale kind of dairy farms and homesteads, it's not unusual to see cows do well into their early to even mid-teens to still have a productive life. So I want her to continue to have a good productive life. And so that to me is more important than getting the milk from her, as I want her calf to continue to be healthy and for June to be healthy too. I don't want to dry her down just yet. I want to wait and see how this kind of grain will help a little bit. I'm Birdie. Bluebird, you're such a sweetie. You're such a honey. Yeah. Bit of a rascal though too. So that's what's up with the cows right now. Just trying to get her in good condition. The turkeys, they were something I got kind of for fun. Where is she? I got for fun for my husband. I thought he's always talked about wanting to get turkeys, and then we're hoping to get at least a male and a female in the little batch we got no females. So I've just been selling them off. These are just gonna give to my neighbors. Thanksgiving's right around the corner, so their time is coming. Hopefully, again, sorry about the wind. The audio is terrible. I am sorry. So that was kind of a new thing. One thing you maybe noticed out here is we no longer have the horses, which sucks, but it's just realistically, turkeys. Realistically, I just do not have the time to be working with horses the way they need to be and riding the horses. Maybe when my kids are all older, then I can have horses again. It's a bummer. I had a horse growing up and spent a lot of time around horses. you know, from, I think it was 5th grade, I want to say, just bonehead, just eat your breakfast, leave me alone, eat your breakfast. Anyway, you think they'd walk into a cage this nicely, which would be slick, but they don't. They just a second. Anyway, from about 5th grade, they'll lose interest once they get past the garden usually. From about 5th grade up until high school, I went to a riding stable after school and just helped out because I was the poor kid who couldn't afford a horse, but just wanted to be around horses, and so I'd help out. And you know, kids that didn't want to have to cool their horses down, I got to cool their horses down for them, that sort of a thing. And eventually I ended up having a horse of my own, but then had to sell her once I left for college. I think it was even late high school before I left for college, because there's just no way, you know, a kid like me could afford board closer to the city where my school was. So it was very exciting to have horses in my life again, you know, after not having them for a while. And it just is what it is. I'll just have to wait until we're at a different point in life for horses. So that's a horse update. Let's talk garden real quick. Before I talk garden, let me back up. Turkeys are going away. About the cows. June, I was hoping that she'd be bred for this year. Again, if she's not, we'll see. So the plan was for her to be bred this year. Because she's getting bred later this year. Next year I would not breed her, and I would be, of course, breeding Birdie next year. So that 2 years from now, so next year June will be our milk cow. 2 years from then, Birdie would be our milk cow. And then hopefully June would have, did I turn that water off? I don't think I turned the water off. Yes, I did turn the water off. Okay. So hopefully then that 2 years from now, June would have a calf and Birdie would be having her second calf. And then after that, I'll kind of see for June. I don't ever intend on eating Juneberry. She's my very first cow. And I know it makes me a bad farmer probably to not like, oh, her productive life is done. But I'm hoping that she can be a nurse cow well into her later years, that there's something that she can be of service to for our animals going into kind of retirement as we kind of look at that as her future. So that's the cow plans. Now I'll talk garden. Okay, so back to the garden. It was actually a really good garden year. We had quite a bit come out of the garden this summer. The girls actually later in the summer and into the fall really got into being into the garden. They loved it. They had their different plants that they were big fans of, and so I actually got the beds cleaned out really nicely this year. I need to get some more soil for it. Usually I get just from our compost pile, but it involves getting someone here with a tractor and going through, it's really complicated. So I might actually, I'm sorry to say, buy in some raised bed soil for next year just to bulk it up a little bit, because man, those go down quickly. But I haven't really had to add any amendments to it or anything, because it is basically just all pure composted manure. So the vitality of the soil is really high. And then of course you can see like there, I'm getting some leaves on there. I'm working on adding some more organic matter in. So one big change to the garden this year is I am not going to plant garlic, because it makes more sense to me to plant something where I get more bang for my buck. My garlic yields have been fine, but I just would prefer to have, I usually plant 2 beds. I have 12 of these small raised beds, and I prefer to do something in there that I get a little more return on. So if I do, you know, say green beans or something like that the kids really love, and I get a lot of it, multiple harvests, it just makes more sense to me to do that instead of garlic this year. I'm also going to do dahlias in one of the beds, just because flowers don't necessarily feed you physically, but they feed you spiritually. I'd like to have some more cut flowers. So 1 or 2, I'm going to build one more bed to put in there. And then, so 2 beds will be just for cut flowers. And then it'll be 10 beds that are there for veggies and herbs and things like that. And yeah, we'll talk about other planting things or goals later. Here you may remember a couple years ago, I put a raspberry patch in here, and of course the weeds completely took it over. Look at those sons of, that thistle has been, my thistle is so out of control here, which is very frustrating. I'll talk about that again too in a minute. But anyway, so here, there's a few straggly surviving raspberry plants. So I'm gonna clean this out, minus the raspberries. We're gonna put some covering over it, like one of the black kind of tarp sort of things, not something that's gonna just you know, absorb into the soil, unless they have ones where they, you know, last for a few years and then maybe degrade. That'd be sweet. I need to look into that. But I'm going to cover everything and plant into the covering, because otherwise I'm not really able to stay on top of things well enough otherwise. So flowers in the garden, raspberry patch there, turkeys are leaving. The bees, again, I didn't have a really great year with the bees. They stayed pretty healthy and everything, but I just didn't, my honey yields have not been super great. And in terms of just time and investment, assuming chances are 50-50, if not more, that they won't survive the winter, I'm not going to do bees next year. I'll just kind of put all my equipment, tuck it aside, and then not get bees for next year, and just kind of let that sit for a little bit while, again, I have so many, kids and other things that I'm trying to work on. I'm really trying not to add things, except for I want to add a few things. So let's talk about the things that I want to add next year. First thing on the agenda is ducks. I wasn't going to get ducks. I really wasn't, because ducks are kind of messy. Their eggs are always kind of dirty, whatever. But then I just went and visited my friends, Liz and Curtis and their daughter at Dancing the Land Farm. I'm going to try and tuck myself out of the wind here a little bit more. At Dancing the Land Farm, and they have silver appleyard ducks, which, first of all, just their name sounds like a song. And then they are just these really beautiful ducks. You can easily tell the males from the females. And she said if I wanted next year, she would either hatch some, chicks out for me. Are they called chicks, baby ducklings? No, they're called ducklings, right? Or I could get some hatching eggs if I wanted to. And so I wasn't going to do it, but then I think I want to do it. And so we have an area over here where we used to have our boy goats that I think would be a perfectly fine duck area. I need to get some poultry fencing, and then they could be housed in kind of the side here of our shop area. Could be sort of their indoor area for ducks. And I think it's nice about like ducks and turkeys, for example, is if they don't work out, you can always just sell them or eat them. So that's the one nice thing about the ducks, especially the silver appleyard ones. I was looking, and the chicks are like $22 a chick from Murray McMurray, which seems crazy to me, but so it'll be fun to have those ducks here and let them have babies. And so our plan is to get hatching eggs, because doesn't everybody want to just like do the ducks in the tub or the kitchen sink at like one time in their life, especially when you've got little kids? So we'll do the ducks next year. And you do some reading up. I've never raised ducks. I need to make sure I know actually what I'm doing before I bring ducks here, so I make sure I actually take good care of them. Okay, so we covered bees, ducks, mushrooms. I might, if I can get the lumber for it, I might inoculate some shiitake logs this year, just because, hold on, maybe I'm gonna go in here, because I'm so worried about this wind. Also, right here, this little spot, I'm doing tulips, and I'm gonna transplant some lilies there. I'm gonna go in this little room. The people who lived here before us, he was a leather worker, and this was his little leather working area. And I did have this as our tack room when we had horses, but now it's mostly just kind of this funny little place that just sits unused, and has the cutest little wood stove in it you've ever seen. Anyway, now you got the buzz of the lights. Hopefully that's not too bad. Okay, what were we talking about? Shiitake logs. Okay, so my neighbor, he's done shiitakes for a long time, so he has all the equipment for it. So I just need to get in my own timber and then my own things for inoculating, and then he said he would take me through kind of the process. So we've got this area, which I'll film in a second when I'm not out in the wind, that we did, was kind of our plan to have all the goats in there in 2 separate pens, our smaller goats and things. And we got out of dairy goats. There's another video about that if you want to check it out, why we got out of dairy goats. But so that area over there is kind of shady. It'd be a good spot, so we can put the ducks in one spot and then put the shiitake logs kind of outside of there. And I bet ducks would like mushrooms too. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for that area for next year, ducks and mushrooms. And while I'm in here, I'll say too, for chickens, I am gonna get, right now we have about 30 chickens, which is still probably a little too many chickens to be honest, but I am going to, in the spring, I like to sell maybe a dozen or so of my 1 to 2 year olds. They'll sell really easily and quickly. They do not sell in the fall, winter. You can barely give a chicken away this time of year. But so I'll sell about a dozen in the spring, and then I'm gonna get in 3 different varieties or 3 different breeds. I haven't completely decided yet on what breeds I'm gonna get, but I really wanna get, I've got, kind of the pale blue and the pale brown eggs, but I really wanna get in some of those dark browns. So a Marin of some kind, I think maybe an Olive Egger, and then I'm not sure yet on the last one. But I posted a thing on Instagram, and a couple people said how much they love chocolate Orpingtons, so I might look into those. So I'll add in just like 15 new chickens to the flock, just to try and get some really pretty eggs in the mix down there. Okay, I gotta hustle up here because we gotta get the kids out and going here and turn off my light. So other things I'd like to get, we've got one section of fence that is still, we have not replaced. I'd really like to get that done this year. We had a bunch of trees that came down this year, so I'm hoping that that's a project this fall yet, at least. No, we are going to this fall yet, at least get them sectioned up into chunks so they can age. So then next year we can get it all split, and we'll have easily 1, if not 2 winters worth of firewood from all the trees that we've lost, because we had some really bad storms in the spring. So let's see, Thistle's been so awful, and I think it's a 3-fold problem. 1, we've had a lot of drought lately for several years, and Thistle doesn't care about drought. It's just like, great, I'll do fine. So drought. Number 2, we had the horses, and horses are pretty hard on land. Number 3, we got rid of our goats, and I really do think that the goats did a lot to help keep down all that thistle. So I'm toying with the idea of getting who knows, maybe the audio is fine, but I'm so like nervous about the audio in this situation, but it's boring for me just to stand in that room. So anyway, I'm toying with the idea of getting a couple goats. My friend, again, at Dancing the Land, they have Angoras. And so I like the idea of having a dual purpose goat. So if they had a couple of nicer wethers, because they do use hot wire, so they would be hot wire trained. And I do want an animal. My husband really likes Nigerian dwarves, but they can't really help with thistle control. They can't be out there doing like the weed work that we need. So I don't know, but they just leave their animals with their horns. And so that I'm not sure about, because our cows don't have horns. And so that's always a risk, if the goats get pushy. But usually Juneberry she's the queen boss of everything out here. So I don't know. So we'll see. So maybe some goats to help with the thistle, because I really do not want to spray stuff. That was my upbringing sort of in terms of the farm world, was organic holistic management. And so clearly I got between the drought, which isn't particularly natural with climate change, and then me putting too much pressure on the land with the horses, things got out of whack, and I was a part of that problem. And so I need to figure out how to get it back into a natural cycle, and hopefully by doing so without spraying a bunch of toxic crap on everything is my hope. So that's what's going on with the thistle. And it's very embarrassing. My thistle patches are so awful. We might do some flame control here once we get a little bit of snow on the ground, is something else we might try. So one thing here, this tree, as you can see, I've got a little bit of a monkey bar type thing. That's what the girls call it, the monkey bars on this tree. I'd really like to get a tree fort built on here, as if that's going to happen. And another swing on there for the kids, just so they have more things in the backyard, so they're getting big enough where they can kind of just play and keep themselves busy while I get some work done, which is what I would really love to do. Here, there's a sheepskin in there that I need to get out today. Coming up around the side of the house, also it's been so windy yesterday and today. Warm weather, but windy. I think it's just blowing in the cold. Over here on this side of the house, we have this kind of naked patch up between the deck, so sort of kind of more up there, where I would like to put an herb garden and some lavender. A gal that I'm friends with on Instagram, Caitlin Dubin, she has the Rural Woman podcast, and she lives up, I can't remember where she's in Canada, but she's in Canada, and she has a type of lavender called Munstead, which actually overwinters there for her. So I would like to try and get kind of a lavender herb garden type situation planted over there. Again, just kind of covering everything. There's one stump I gotta burn out of there, just because it'd be really pretty to be like right off the deck in the front yard area. And that way, because I've been doing herbs in pots. I don't like doing herbs back in the garden because I never get to them when I actually need them. Herbs in pots are always kind of, at least mine have always been kind of runty. And so I was thinking maybe if I do kind of a nice in-ground herb garden and focus on some perennial herbs that will last, that I can do there, and then fill in a couple spots with annuals is what I'm sort of thinking. Okay, so I think that maybe covers everything. Front yardish, middle yard, flower garden, raspberries, cows, goats for weed control. I think everything, yeah. I'm just talking to myself now at this point. So that is what's going on here. I didn't talk about it all. That's like kind of plans. What did we get done this year? Boy, did I get anything done this year? I don't think so. I think we had a really good garden year. Made some choices about the horses. We got turkeys. They're making choices about the turkeys. We did get the trees down. Just need to get them chopped up. My dad fixed the roof of our shop. That's something he did, not me, because the skylights had rotted out. And he climbed up there. He said it was the scariest roof he's ever been on. My dad, bless him, is in his 60s and still got up there and did this. And he said it was scary because our building turns out is aluminum, not steel. He said it was like walking on a giant pop can. My dad is not a man who gets rattled easily. He was rattled after being on that roof. I felt so bad. But our hay, I was having to put hay under tarps even inside because we just literally had giant holes in our ceiling. So that got done. So that was very good. Yeah, other than that, chicken coops still didn't get painted. Most importantly, my kids are alive and happy most of the time, kids, and healthy. That I think is the bigger win. Oh, one last thing, really important. So here on YouTube, I have started a membership program. So that's I forgot to even talk about the podcast. I'm mixing all sorts of stuff. So while stuff didn't really happen so much on the farm, a lot of stuff happened in terms of kind of the rough and tumble digital empire, if you want to say that. So here on YouTube, I started a membership, which is the smallest one is just $2 a month. And the membership is there. You get extra perks, extra videos every month, sort of behind the scenes thing. There's like a private chat that I'm in with the members and everything. So if you want to kind of touch base, and also there's member polls, so you can give your opinion about what sort of videos you'd like to see. So if you're interested in being a member, I already appreciate your support. Just you being here, watching, sharing, liking, commenting is enough. But if you want to kick in a little bit extra, if you got $2 a month you can throw at me, that's incredible. I would love to be able to focus more on creating content and being able to offload some of this. I have a friend of mine who's also a stay-at-home mom, and I'm able to pay her right now 3 hours a week. Is what not a week, 3 hours a month is what I can afford. But I would love to be able to hire some other sort of stay-at-home moms and be able to offload some of this and still kind of grow the little rough and tumble blog, YouTube channel. And then of course now we have the podcast, the Family Milk Cow podcast, which has been really successful. So far it's performing in the top 50% of all podcasts, and there's like 2 million podcasts. So I'm really proud of how well that is doing, and I really haven't advertised that at all very much. So that just shows that there is a need for people wanting to learn about small scale dairy production and safety and, you know, cattle management, all that stuff. So there's definitely a need for that information. So I'm really excited to hopefully be filling that for people. So every little bit helps in terms of like the membership on the YouTube channel, or if you check out, there's a Patreon for the Milk Cow podcast, and there's some really cool perks and stuff you can get with that are related specifically to that podcast. So if milk cows are kind of your jam, that's probably where you want to head over to. So yeah, so I didn't get a lot of stuff done here. Everything just kind of maintained, but there was a lot of growth in terms of my other side business, my business for Rough and Tumble Farmhouse and the Family Milk Cow podcast. So I've definitely really had to, you know, as my kids are little and I spent so much time before I moved here. I was working on farms. I was single. Farming was just kind of my thing, is what I did. And I was just always working on stuff, and I can't do that anymore. And it's more important that I am present and focused for my kids, because I can have dairy cows for the rest of my life. I can plant gardens and do things like that for the rest of my life. But my kids are just this little for such a short amount of time. And so I still find myself being like, hey, let that thing go, because you want to focus on your children. And so it's a good thing. It's a hard thing, but it's a good kind of, you know, refocusing of where my attention really should be, and all this other stuff, as much as I love it and it's kind of my heart song, you know, it needs to be kind of set to the side, and I can focus on my kids. So that's where I'm at with everything. Still have plenty of projects that I want to add, plenty of things that need to be worked on and kept up and everything else. So there's a lot to stay tuned for this coming year. A lot of great posts and videos planned for the winter, including, let's see, I've got the sheepskins I'll be telling you about. I've got a bunch of crazy stuff fermenting up in the house. There's a lot going on at our Rough and Tumble farmhouse, and I hope I will see you next week, where I'm going to tell you all about it. Take care.